The Andree Bird Refuge offers many things. It's a haven for wildlife, a great place to exercise, and it's also a wonderful place to appreciate natural beauty. But its development over the years has changed the ecosystem of the refuge, and the result sometimes isn't so pretty. Up next, City TV's Adrian Brannon explains the problem and shows us the Creeks Division's efforts to remedy the occasionally stinky situation.
Home to over 200 species of birds, the Andree Bird Refuge provides a great place for recreational activities as well as some of the best views that our city has to offer. At any given time of day, families walk hand in hand with children, couples exercise together, and tourists ride chartered bikes along the pathway at the water's edge. But the refuge didn't always look like it does today. Until the 1880s, the area was a natural estuary fed with fresh water from Sycamore Creek and salt water from the ocean.
Previously, the bird refuge was a shallower salt pond marsh. And so it would fill up when it rained, and it was connected to Sycamore Creek, and Sycamore Creek would breach through the sand, and this would drain. And in the summertime, it would be dry. It wasn't a lake.
In those summer months, the estuary was so dry it was used as a horse race track. But when the railroad was built and subsequent development, like Highway 101 and Cabrillo Boulevard, isolated the area from its water sources, things began to change.
They dredged it and made it a lake, and then cut off the outlet, basically, through Sycamore Creek. It does outlet to the ocean sometimes, but it's very rare now because it just doesn't get enough water to fill it up and outlet it on most years. And with this drought for the last 5 years, it hasn't broken through the berm once, except till this year it actually did.
The absence of natural flow has had many consequences at the bird refuge, the most significant being a buildup of nutrients or eutrophication.
It's a little bit like the Dead Sea, you know, everything drains into it and nothing really is draining out.
So we're constantly getting nutrients put in during rain events. All kinds of urban runoff has nutrients from people putting on excess fertilizer that runs off, and also kind of natural nutrients, just the leaves and the litter from street trees.
The high levels of nutrients frequently set off a chain reaction where algae increases to feed on the nutrients. When the algae dies, bacteria breaks it down, creating quite a stink.
We have two types of stink events. There's ones that last longer, and those are more the rotten egg, H2S kind of smell. And then we get these milder events that are more garlicky, fishy smell, you know, and those aren't as strong, but they're milder and don't usually last as long.
Extreme stink events happen every couple to every 3 or 4 years. Moderate stink events seem to happen every year.
And these so-called stink events are nothing new.
The first documentation that we've seen was in a Park and Rec Commission meeting from 1933, and they were saying how once it got blocked off, once the bird refuge was basically formed, that the stink events started occurring.
But the bad smell is only part of the problem. When bacteria breaks down, the algae blooms, using up most of the oxygen in the water in the process.
When we go through periods of low dissolved oxygen, top to bottom in the water column, there are very few organisms that can survive that.
Over the years, the city has tried a number of tactics to remedy the situation.
We've heard that some park staff used to bring an air compressor and some hoses and try to pump air into the bird refuge, and they'd sleep in their trucks, back of their trucks overnight while they tried to pump air into the bird refuge.
They used to put things like copper sulfate, which is pretty toxic. It's a heavy metal. We can't do that anymore. That would kill it. It was chlorinated. We tried filling it with potable water. We're not going to do that now that with the drought. And there were things like driving boats around to try to aerate it. And we had a pilot project where we'd done some aeration. You can actually see the little bubbles there. It's still going on. We looked at some new technology information that could, like I said, like probiotics, things like that, to see, is there anything out there that we could put into the bird refuge that will help treat it and reduce the smell events. And we didn't find anything that was really successful. We've been doing about 3 or 4 years of sampling of the water quality in the bird refuge, and that gave us a lot of data.
With the knowledge of what doesn't work, along with the new data, Creek staff has narrowed its focus to 2 areas, the first of which is to increase flushing.
What we're looking at in the future here is to see, can we open this up a little more, both the mouth of on the beach and the drains that go under Cabrillo, to find out if we can get the bird refuge to flush more and get, as I said, salt water to come in and fresh water to go out.
There are many regulatory and budgetary hurdles for this solution. That's why Creek staff is also promoting attacking the problem at its source, and that involves all of us.
The most important thing that people can do that live in the watershed of the bird refuge, and the watershed is about 600 acres, is to reduce the amounts of nutrients coming off their properties. The two main ways are to reduce the use of inorganic fertilizers and switch to more organic varieties and still not over-apply, even those are organic varieties. And second is to keep their streets clean and sidewalks clean of leaves that are going to run into the storm drain during a rain event.
Something that takes a little more effort is water that runs off of your driveways and roofs. You can actually take that and divert it to your garden or to your lawn, and that helps to infiltrate that water and prevents that dirty water coming off of your roof or your driveway from going down into the creeks and ultimately the ocean.
To find out more about the Creeks Division's efforts at the Bird Refuge, call 897-2658.